At this time now, we will now move into our Strategic Education Committee.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Earlier this summer, the board worked to develop 3 goals, one for performance, one for growth, and one for readiness. This staff has been charged with supplying specific measures, compiling data, and developing annual targets and long-range plans that would back up these goals. As part of this process, the board also wanted to provide a simple and clear message that could be shared with stakeholders that would help explain these 3 measures and these 3 goals. The Office of Assessment and Evaluation, as well as Strategy and Communications, have been working together to gather data and craft a message that we could help simplify what is ultimately a very complex process. And this presentation is our attempt to provide that message that you could share with stakeholders. These are the 3 goals developed through the work of the board. Although we don't have the results back that would allow us to fill in or to set a true target to fill in the numbers in these blanks at this time, we'll have preliminary data back from the state in time to allow us to provide the information at the beginning of the school year so that we can set annual targets and also 3-year goals for performance and growth. Just as a reminder, we'll only be focusing on the performance and growth goals because the last goal, the readiness goal, that doesn't start until the fall of 2020 due to the Regional Accountability Group and Ms. Ambrose still working on the measure for workplace skills that would help establish the criteria that would determine what a well-rounded readiness for a student would look like upon exiting elementary, middle, and high. Okay, so what you see on the screen is a depiction of the readiness pathway, or what's needed at each grade level to be on track for college and career readiness. This isn't an actual graph, but more of a visual representation of a concept or idea of how the level of rigor actually builds as the year progresses and as we move across the years or grades of the students in school. Our ultimate purpose as a system is to prepare well-rounded students who perform with the reading, math, and workplace skills necessary to attain a living wage and be college and career ready. As we talked about these goals and our purpose as a system, we wanted to be able to provide a simple metric that could show a student's current level of readiness and their attainment of where they were in reference to this trajectory along the pathway to college and career readiness. Because we know it can be very confusing looking at all the different assessment results and how these assessments change from grade level to grade level and then from elementary to middle to high, we wanted to be able to answer the real question, and that is simply this: is a student ready for the next grade level and on the pathway to graduating college and career ready? This allows us the opportunity when we sit with parents at a conference or with you as a board to be able to answer this question. So how do we get to this simple metric that can show us if students are ready at their grade level or where students are in relation to the readiness expectation? These are some of those measures that can help us with this task. And you'll see they're divided by different grade spans as well. When we as educators are trying to determine a student's level of readiness in comparison to their grade level, we look at multiple measures, not at just one data point, because every educator knows you cannot determine the academic health and well-being of a child based on one data point alone. The chosen indicators that you see on the screen, they align with college and career readiness. Some as a part of what you might see on a school report card, and some, like the MAP assessment, which provides a correlation to show college and career readiness. Let's take a look at the goals. CCSD students will achieve at or above the grade level expectations in reading and math. Simply, what does this mean? This first goal, the performance goal, focuses on reading and math performance in relation to college and career readiness. We will have annual targets and long-range goals to increase the percentage of students achieving at the level that will lead to readiness at graduation. At the beginning of each year, we will report the number and percentage of students performing at the expected readiness level in these areas for the district, each school, and each grade. So what can we expect in relation to this performance goal? Parents and students will know at the beginning of each school year where a child is in relation to the readiness expectation for that grade level. Schools and teachers will be able to share plans for keeping a student on track for readiness, catching up a student if they're not on track, and enhancing learning for a student if he or she is ahead. This will facilitate conversations about how they can support or assist a student at home. Also, parents and students will know where they are at the end of each school year in relation to the readiness expectation for the next school year. Which brings us to our second goal. CCSD students will grow academically at least one full year from the prior spring based on grade level readiness expectations in reading and math. Simply, what does this mean? This second goal, the growth goal, this focuses on reading and math growth occurring at a rate of a minimum of 1 year of academic growth. In other words, no matter where a student starts, it's important that he or she grows at a minimum of 1 year just to not lose ground in relation to their trajectory towards college and career readiness. The idea is that students will make 1 full year's growth from prior spring to the current spring. For example, if this year's fifth grader was reading and math ready at the end of fourth grade, then that student should leave the fifth grade reading and math ready for sixth grade. We'll have annual targets, long-range goals, to increase the percentage of students achieving at least 1 full year of academic growth that will lead to readiness upon graduation. And at the beginning of the year, we will report the percentage of students achieving at least 1 year of academic growth for the district, each school, and each grade level. What can we expect in relation to the growth goal? Parents and students will not only know at the beginning of each school year where a child is in relation to the readiness expectation for that grade level, but also how much he or she needs to grow during that school year to be ready for the next school year. Again, schools and teachers will be able to share plans with how they'll keep a student on track for readiness if they're already there, or catch up a student if they're behind, and again, enhance that learning so that a student is already ahead will not lose ground but will continue to be ahead. This will facilitate conversations with parents and schools so they can partner in supporting students and obtaining the growth that's needed to remain along that college and career pathway. Also, parents and students will know where a child is at the end of each school year in relation to the readiness expectation and how much growth their child experienced during that school year. Now, we just walked through the first 2 goals, performance and growth, because again, the third goal, the readiness goal, does not start until the fall of 2020. This is because, again, of the regional accountability work that's still underway. I want to show you one more thing. This is just a sample, it's not finalized, of what will be provided to schools at the beginning of the school year. We wanted to make sure that we showed you something so that you could see how we could represent those performance and growth goals for schools. Our plan is to also incorporate a simple snapshot of this readiness metric within our current school and student dashboards within the school year. And our future goal is for these dashboards to move from static to something live. So in closing, what you've seen this afternoon is our attempt at crafting a message to explain the framework for this simple metric that can be utilized in parent conferences to share current levels of performance and the benchmarks necessary to be college and career ready. Additionally, this framework can serve as a part of the foundation for the regional accountability work that's ongoing. We thank you for your time, and we hope that this presentation will be helpful with sharing with stakeholders. Do you have any suggestions related to the presentation or feedback?
Okay, are there any questions? Reverend Collins.
Thank you for your presentation and the work you put into it. The goals, the board goals. What are we waiting for exactly to put the numbers in?
We'll have information back from the state so that we can provide those metrics by the beginning of the school year. We hope to share all that information with our principals and lead teams during our first, our August principal meeting.
So let me make sure I understand. Are you saying that you're waiting on last year's results
Right,
to see what progress was made to determine the goal based on what we did last year?
Yes, sir. We're waiting on those spring results to make sure we have that information back so that we have a true target.
So whether we did very well or we did poorly, it'd be based on last year's assessment.
Right, and no matter how we did, we'll still, hope to improve. We'll still.
Well, yeah, that's the
look for
goal.
goals. Yes, sir.
I was thinking when I read through the three goals, most of my math and reading, almost the same goals, or closely related goals is what I say, moving in math and reading, which are very important. So I guess what I'm asking is when you get down to the final two, we're going to have a goal, for example, a 10% increase in reading, for example, or 5% growth or 20% growth. We're going to break it down to something concrete that we can actually see and measure.
Yes.
Then so also now, if the district has a goal, thank you. If the district has a goal of 10%, for example, then it's also said, I read that each school would have a goal also. So are we going off of the school's goal itself or the district overall goal?
All the goals will be aligned, and we can get back with very specific information for that if you'd like.
I guess I'm asking, would the school's goals be based for the school itself, or would that be part of the board's goal for the district goal, or that's something independent that you guys are doing?
It will be based on school results and aligned with the district result.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Coates?
So I have a couple of questions. First, I thought part of the map and these presentations that we've received over the last couple of years talks about how teachers can get some real data back almost in real time. And since we were discussing the budget in April, members of the board have been asking for any student achievement to show that the extra money we put into last year's budget was worked. And so now I'm hearing you say that that's not how it works, that our schools still don't really know where our students landed at the end of last year yet?
Not exactly. They do have information about their math achievement, like if you're thinking about some of those formative measures or benchmark assessments, but they would not have all the state results back yet, simply because they haven't been provided by the state yet.
And I think the state doesn't provide those until October or so.
They don't become unembargoed until then.
So what is it you're going to have for us in August?
We're allowed to use results or measures for internal purposes, but not to release to the public if it's embargoed results. And one of the things about this particular measure, we're using more than one measure to determine this level. So that can also help us with that. But I can provide, again, more information specifically for you.
Okay, and so the regional accountability group is the reason that you're delaying setting a college and career readiness goal. But we have the South Carolina profile of the graduate. We have some state mandates. How different do you think your regional accountability thing will be that we can't why do we have to wait another whole year again after the profile of the South Carolina graduate came out 2 years ago, I believe, and why are we waiting another year for something else that we're going to create?
I don't know if I could give you a specific answer for that. I can certainly get back with you about that particular one.
And the readiness pathways, those were discussed and approved by the board in November of 2015 and implemented in the 16 school year. So can't you use that dashboard information that has been implemented to kind of give us an idea of where we've been growing? What value has the dashboards had since 2016 so that we can see that this is the way to keep moving?
One of the reasons that we, or it's my understanding, that one of the reasons we implemented the dashboard was to provide parents with a snapshot of where their student is. The dashboard has a lot of different assessment measures on it for parents, and sometimes that can be a little overwhelming because there are so many different things on there. One of the things that we hope to do with this, or a way to enhance or improve what we're doing with the dashboards, is to provide this simple metric that kind of, for lack of a better term, mashes all that together so that you can, you basically just get one simple metric that tells you whether a student is truly ready or not. So it's looking at all those different measures, because when I think about when, as an educator, I would never want to determine a child's readiness based on one data point or one measure. You always want to look at multiple measures to do that. This can give us a way that we can do that. Whereas before, we weren't really looking at it that way.
But, we've seen the dashboard. It had multiple different measures on it. So, okay, well, maybe it'll become more clear as we go further down the road. But thank you.
All right, is there any other questions?
Just one more, if no one else has one.
Okay, go ahead, Reverend Collins.
We're only going to use South Carolina data and MAP scores? That's what we're looking at only?
We'll be using several different measures. On the slide number 4, we have some of those measures that we'll be using, so you can see those by grade level.
Right. Well, the reason for my question is that South Carolina as a whole doesn't rank very high across the nation. But I'm considering some of the states that are outperforming South Carolina. Are we looking at some of those growth goals to compare them to ours to see if we're really making true gains? The way our law is written, that we only have to educate a person, I think it says minimally adequate education is the language that we use, and that's our driving point. So we want to get above that we're not doing a minimally adequate, but we're doing above that, a sufficient education. So I'm hoping we look at some other states instead of not just ours only.
Okay. So just to be clear, we do have data that we could use for the performance goal, the goal of growth, and the readiness goal, just simply from the dashboards that we have been displaying. So we do have that information, correct?
We're asking about the most updated information to
We're
provide.
asking if you have the dashboards completed for the end of the 18-19 school year.
They are in process with Scantron, which is our provider. They're working on those dashboards.
So they're in process.
And when do you expect them?
We will have early fall dashboards that will provide the end-of-year data sometime in September.
So
Okay.
can the board get the mid-year dashboards? I mean, anything that tells us what happened last school year before we're 6 weeks into the new one?
Yes, we will provide that. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.